So set me up here, Bree. You set up a sample file.
Correct.
And you're going back in. You filled all this out previously. On what
Yes.
computer? Where did you fill it out? Did you use this computer or your phone? The first time.
The first time I used my phone.
Okay, so you filled it out by your phone. And you're using the same phone number that you logged in with the first time, correct?
Yes. It won't let you change it.
Right. Okay, and so you're getting a blank fields there. That's interesting. Okay, I'll have to check into that. I'm not sure why that
Bree,
is.
did you try going back in on your phone and same thing happened?
That was the first screenshot that I sent to you.
Bree, click on the first name field. Just click in that field and start typing your first name. So nothing doesn't even, well, okay.
It'll fill that one, but it won't fill out the rest.
Mm-hmm.
Like you have to keep going.
Mm-hmm.
Are you able to click on additional documents to the right? Probably not.
No, you can't go forward.
And you can't even go to the next page.
Till you fill all that out. Okay. Bree, let's just look at your browser version. Click on the three dots up to the right and go to Help and About. Okay. Okay, good. Thank you. Let's see if it updates. Oh, it is updating. But yours is not updating automatically. Let's see where it go, what version it goes. So you're on 75, 142. I don't know if this has any bearing on it or not. I'm really not a browser expert, but we'll see. Relaunch Google Chrome to finish updating. All right, so let's do you into, yeah, just hit the relaunch button. That's fine. It'll just relaunch everything for you. And you're up to a whole new version of 76. Now, I'm not saying that'll change what's going on here, but let's kill this session. So just exit out of this tab and relaunch the whole session for me by going back to that link that you got to, where did you get?
That one, it's through my email.
Okay, so let's go to your email. Is that the same email address as the first time?
Yes.
Hit your exit button here. I just want to see the previous screen real quick. I'm sorry. So the email address is the same. The phone number is the same. Nothing has changed.
Right. You can't change it once you've
not from here.
Once you verified the first time, you cannot change it.
That's right. That's right. Okay. So go ahead and say get verified. Sorry about that. Okay, verify.
The link.
And then click in the field. Nothing comes up. Okay. Now, that may not be possible just because you updated on an old file. So we'll take this and test it. I've actually recorded these screenshots here, and I'm going to talk to development about it and see if I can figure it out. Okay, thank you for that.
Another thing is when we're entering in a contact and we have their name and we have their email, I understand that the contacts are created by emails and not by their names. Is that correct?
Contacts. Well, no, not necessarily. It's names and email. Tell me where you're going with that.
So if we do not add a phone number and we send and the email goes out and they click in it, whoever gets that email can type in whatever phone number they want, and then they're the only ones who can access it.
Right, but that is correct, because you may not have a phone number the first time. Now, when they enter in a phone number, all of this is blank the first time. They can't see any sensitive information because there is none yet. So they would have to know what to add in, names and all the required fields for you to, for you to think that it was, if it was somebody who wasn't the actual buyer or seller, they would have to know what to put in there to fool you. And that, I don't think that's possible.
Let me ask a question on that, because I've had a big concern on security, obviously. And moving forward, I told Bree, don't put anyone in unless we have their cell phone number or a phone number. But let me ask you this, because I haven't tested this part, and maybe Bree, you have, since we spoke yesterday and met. But if we put their name and their cell phone number in as a contact, and they go in and put a different cell phone number in to authenticate when they sign on, will the system still accept that number, or does it have to match what we put in?
No, I don't believe you can change the phone number once you put it in.
No,
On our end?
Saying is, if she puts it in, if we put it in when we're uploading the contact into Nextdeal, and then the email gets sent out, and they go in and they change or they type in a different phone number than what we have on file, is it going to let them continue, or does it have to match the number that we have?
Yeah, it is going to authenticate them to the number that you input.
Okay.
Okay. Did we test that, Bree? I know that yesterday I was able to put in a different number, but is that because you didn't put a phone number in the file that we were testing?
We put a phone number in for one, but not for the other. In the one that I entered a phone number in, it didn't pre-populate.
Right, but you put the same number in when you signed on. My question is, when you brought me your phone yesterday and I put in my phone number to get the text, was that a file that didn't have a phone number already assigned to it when you entered it?
Right.
Okay, so the weakness here in my mind is we have to get an email and a phone number so that if that email gets forwarded or copied or whatever, and someone else gets in there, it's not going to be useful to them unless they have the phone number that's assigned to the file with it. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, that's the safety feature I was looking for. I was under the impression that they could, regardless of what phone number we put in for that party, Mr. Seller or Mr. Buyer, whoever it is, that when they got the welcome email saying, here's your link, go fill out your information, that they were able to put in any phone number. It didn't have to match what we had in the system, but you're saying it does have to match if we put a phone number in there or it won't work, correct?
The authentication is going to send the code to the number that you input.
That who inputs, Mr. Seller or me when I set up the file?
The Closing Boutique staff.
Okay, regardless of what so if they type in the wrong number when they're signing on for the first time, it's not going to give them a code.
It doesn't type in anything, it pre-populates. They don't type anything in.
No, it doesn't. It still pre-populates, like I think it's your guys' number, like a 784 number or something like that. It's like a shadow and you type over it.
Oh.
And that's been another point of confusion, but we've talked to a few people through it. They're like, hey, this phone number is not mine. What is this number? And we're like, no, it's just showing you a format kind of in a shadow, and they have to type in their phone number.
It shows the 714 number in the as grayed out.
Yeah, I think that's 7 something.
All right, so let's just test this. Bree, I'm going to because
Bree can show you from her screen if you want to do it.
Well, let's let me just to make sure that we're all on the same page. I'm going to start it. I can go into, we have a kind of a behind the scenes dashboard I can use to send myself a quick invite.
Okay.
And I'll do it from the Closing Boutique system. So let me.
Okay.
I need to make this top part go away here. Well, that's funny. I've never seen that before. It does the same thing. Doggone it. Let me stop share here. I think it's because I'm recording. Huh. That's interesting. All right. Okay. So, am I sharing now? Sorry, I'm new to Zoom. We just got this a couple weeks ago, so still figuring out all the stuff. Okay. So I'm going to send it to my Gmail account. Oops, that's not the right one. Sorry. I'm getting ahead of myself. There we go. There we go. All right. So let's pick an address. Good. Can you all see my screen?
Yes.
Oh, come on. Okay, so we're going to send seller. And I'm going to put in my name and my cell phone number, just as if you were doing it as you guys normally do it. This isn't really any different. This is just a little faster process. It's going to send me an email. So let me get that. At least I think it is. All right.
Last night when we were setting up our test files, it took about 15 to 20 minutes for the emails to go out.
Those emails are on a delay, just in case gives you time, in case you want to stop anything or change anything. That you'll have time to do that. All right, bear with me here. Okay. All right, so here's how it works. So it has, because I input a phone number, that phone number, I cannot go any further until I verify.
So Bree, if you've already entered a phone number for that person, then it's auto-populating in that screen. Is that correct? And they can't change it? Are you able to change that, Robert, on your screen? If you click on the phone number and put something else in there?
Nope.
Delete? Nothing. Okay. All right. Well then, Bree, the answer to that question is we have to have their phone number, their cell phone number or a landline number, whichever they choose, to put in there.
We can authenticate to either.
Right, because I tested the regular landline one today.
Okay.
So that will give us the security that we need and make it match up so that if the email gets forwarded, they can't get the text, the code. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Because this code's going to go to the true buyer or seller's email address.
That's right.
Okay, well that's a relief. I thought it was changeable. So.
No problem. All right, so then, what was the next question that you guys had?
Okay, hang on, I need to get out of the screen. On the task side for estoppels and payoffs,
Okay.
just kind of a confirmation, and I don't know if I need to send an email. We had a situation, one of the girls in my office, Sue, who got a call from a seller and about an estoppel charge, and it was in the high $400 range. An estoppel is supposed to be capped in Florida at $350 plus maybe a $5 or $6 credit card charge processing fee by the management company.
Yeah.
And apparently what had happened, and she spoke to Lacey and they got it, I think Lacey is the girl's name that's at the task desk.
Yeah.
And they figured out what happened, but I want to make sure that everyone on the task side knows going forward to only order the estoppel itself. What happened is she went to a management company's, online portal to order, and I guess it automatically must have checked boxes that you had to uncheck to say, oh, we also want the deed restrictions and these other documents. And the total bill got processed for like $480 something instead of the $250 or $350 for just the estoppel.
Okay.
So we want to make sure that they only order the estoppel and not all the other extra documents, because we quote a maximum of $350 on our net sheet, for one estoppel. Now, if there's more than one association, obviously they have to pay for more than one.
Right.
But so like I said, there was some verbal conversations. Pardon me?
Any one association's maximum will be $350 plus any credit card processing fee.
Right, and the maximum includes $250 for the estoppel and $100 they're allowed to charge for a rush fee, which is pretty much every estoppel we need.
Okay.
So that's the new statute, but I wanted to make sure, because we were like, how did they charge this? Let's go back to the HOA and have them fix this. Surely they know this. And what happened is when they ordered online, they weren't watching to make sure that they didn't order all the extra add-ons that they offer.
Got it.
And so I want to make sure that
Yeah.
And each state can be different. I realize you guys operate in multiple states. So
Right.
should I send a confirming email about that, and who would I direct it to, or just?
You're more than welcome to. I'm going to talk to Jim Adams today and pass this along verbally as well.
Okay.
But Sandy, you're welcome to send any email you'd like.
That's fine. If it's not necessary and Jim's aware, then we're good.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah.
Another question, and Bree and I kind of went over this, and I just want to confirm this is the best way to do this based on how the system operates. When we have a file open and the buyer cancels, drops out, whatever, which is frequently, is the best way to handle that to go into our parties and delete the buyer and enter a new one so that we keep the seller intact and we don't lose any of that, and then we update our closing date.
And then you update your closing date. Yes, that's fine. to keep the same file number and to
Right.
swap out buyers is completely fine.
Okay, so Bree, that answers your question. Don't cancel that file because our file number doesn't change when we get a new buyer.
Mm-hmm.
So when we lose a buyer, all we're doing is deleting that party, the buyer or buyers, and adding the new one, which should generate a new email to the new buyers.
Mm-hmm.
And then updating the closing date. Actually, we should update the closing date first, probably. But
Bree, if you don't mind, when that happens, if you could remember to put some notes in there, what you're doing, just in case there's a question by the task unit, that as to what's going on, if they're, you know.
when you say notes, you're talking about on the file console dashboard.
Correct.
To the right, where it says notes.
Yes.
If we put notes in there, they will see them.
Actually, not to the right, Sandy. If you click on the file number and it takes you to that secondary screen for just that file, then there's a notes window in there.
Right, and I've been using that to communicate with Lacey. However, she's told me that anytime I put something in there, it's beneficial to both of us if I email her because she doesn't get notifications that there are notes in there.
Okay, fair enough. So that's kind of double work for you, Bree, which I don't love the fact that you have to do that. Let me take that up with Jim Adams. I know he's having some improvements made to the dashboard, to the console, and now, in fact, they're working on a whole new version of it.
And I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you, but
that's right.
Also, when we delete a party from a file, in the pre-doc side, it does not delete them from the file console.
You're so right, and that's exactly one of the things that we're working on. So we're painfully aware of that. Unfortunately, that is the case, and we are working on that for you. So
yeah, a while back you had talked about integrating those. I don't know if they'll integrate, but that was, you know, on that subject, and it sounds like you're working on it, but we'll throw the comments out there now. The fact that anything we do in the pre-docs doesn't, once the initial file's set up, those changes don't flow through to anything on the file console. Like if we delete a party, if we correct a name spelling, if we correct an address spelling, the parties, the buyers and sellers are going to their links saying, you still got my address wrong, or you still got my name printed wrong. And we're like, no, we corrected it. You just can't see it in this part of the system.
Right. Which doesn't do them any good, right, Sandy? Just for you.
No, they think we're idiots, but that's.
Hopefully not, but I get what you're saying. Yes, we are very aware of that. We are actively working on it. And so I'm recording this for our development team and for task. So Jim, if you're listening to this, Sandy says the console doesn't work and it's all your fault.
No, no, it's really an awesome program. So I hope you all don't take our input the wrong way. We're just
not at all.
Going through, you know, the pains of our clients, and some of them, let's face it, a lot of it is just user error. And some of it are learning curve too.
Right.
So
right. No, the feedback's good.
But yeah, if they worked better together, you know, so that changes in one automatically, you know, updated and flowed through to the other, that would be awesome.
Yeah.
So
Bree, for now, if you would just, if it's beneficial to you to only send an email to task and not worry about the notes, if that's more convenient for you, then just do the email by itself.
Well, it's more convenient. I mean, it's helpful to have them in both, just, you know, so all the girls can see it, because they can follow the file console to see what's going on with the file.
Okay.
Yeah, Bree has time. She can put them in both. So that's, I mean, she could put them in the notes and send Lacey an update. So that's until, you know, it all gets integrated a little better. But as long as we know what's best to do, I was just kind of talking through that because we have a lot of buyers drop off. We want to keep our file number. We want to keep all of our sellers' work so they don't have to redo that. And it sounds like right now the best way to do that is we delete that buyer. But let me ask you this, Bree, I think in order to get rid of the buyer in the dashboard or console, which is kind of the second part of this, I hope I'm using the right word,
Yeah.
the file console,
Console.
you know, which is where you see the task stuff going on. I think you can go in and delete that party or cancel the file as to that buyer only, correct?
I believe that's right, Sandy, but I have been disconnected from the changes in that function a little bit, so I will also get you an answer on that today.
Yeah, because like for instance, in my file console that I'm looking at right now, like Bree, when you see our file number, you see the file number 4 times, 2 sellers and 2 buyers. So I just want to be sure, and maybe now I understand what Bree was saying. Once we delete the buyer on the Nextdeal pre-doc side, and we put in our new buyer, and now we have, say, you know, 3 buyers or 4 buyers on our console, the old 2 and the new 2, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer 1 and Mr. and Mrs. Buyer 2, she could go in, this is a question, can we then go in and just or move it from active to canceled as to that buyer only? So we're canceling it or deleting it in the Nextdeal's initial setup, and then we're moving that buyer to canceled in our file console. But that still should maintain our seller information and our file number and all of that. Is that correct?
I believe it is, and I have taken notes here, and
Okay.
I'm going to confirm that for you, and I will send you an email this afternoon with the answers on that question. I'm also going to find out what we're doing about the note in the console alerting the task unit. And of course, as I said, I'm recording this, so Jim will be able to hear your voice as well.
And
Okay.
so going back to our clients going back in after they filled out the first package and adding documents or changing an answer, they're not able to do that without having to fill it out all over again.
Well, no, it should. So when I test it here, it does retain my information when I log back in with the same credentials, which you did. So it did not work for you, and it does work for me and my staff when we tested here, and for others around the country. So it's not 100% apparently, and we got to figure out why. But when it works perfectly, Bree, it should retain the information. It will retain the information. And I'm going to get to the bottom of why it's not here. Did you go, how far through did you go through, just so I know, on that test file that you showed me where it didn't retain the information? How far through it did you go?
I filled it out completely.
And did you sign as well, just so I know?
I did.
Okay. All right. We can look all that up in the system. Okay. Thank you for that. We'll find out. I'll get an answer for you. You also had a question, Bree, about uploading documents, I think? Or was that related to the pre-docs documents?
That was related to the pre-docs.
Okay. Got it.
And just confirming, it looks like I haven't had any problem, but some of our customers may have. It should let them upload any type of document, JPEG, PDF, PNG. Yeah. When I did it this morning, I tried all 3 files and it worked fine, but I just want to make sure. I have a feeling, like I said, I wondered if like the guy who said, a couple people said, oh, I uploaded something, it wasn't there. I wondered if, maybe they were trying a file type that didn't work or something.
I don't think there is a file type that doesn't work.
Okay, that's what I thought. So.
Yeah. So we have added some additional, either have or are right now, I mean, literally yesterday and today, adding some additional capabilities on our support side that will allow us to diagnose a little better when someone says, you know, I clicked on this and it's not working. I try to upload a document and I did it and it's still, and you're saying you didn't get it. Maybe they did, maybe it's user error, maybe it's not. So it's going to allow us to take a harder look at this, and I believe that new feature of the additional visual logging of what they're doing is available, and I'm going to check on that as well. Do you have a file number? Well, it would have to have been done. The next time that happens, Sandy, email me right away directly, please, with a file number.
Okay. All right. Will do. Let's see. Talk about that. Yeah, yeah, we had similar to that, like someone wanted to upload a document. I'm sorry, I wish I could unplug this phone, but I can't.
Right.
We also had a client go in and he said, yes, I wanted a check for my sale proceeds, and he meant to click wire, and he went back in to change it, and same thing, all the fields were blank, and we're like, okay, don't do anything, just, you know, we'll kind of work outside the system. So, and you know, in training my staff, the human nature is they all want to go back to the old way and like, okay, well, we'll just email them and get the information. And I'm like, no, I want to make people use the system. You know, so they're having to use a workaround a lot because of that blank field issue, and the parties don't want to go in and redo everything after they've already submitted it.
Yeah, I hear you, and quite frankly, I don't blame them. I wouldn't want to either. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna get you answers for that, and it's a good thing that we've got Bree's file here that where I can show this to everybody, and when someone says to me, no, that can't be the case, I'm going to show them that it is the case. So
right, and
bottom of it.
And yeah, and it may depend on, but that was all through Google Chrome, so we'll see. Yeah. In the Nextdeal initial file entry side, if we have someone who says, hey, I didn't get the email that you said went out, maybe it went to their junk file, spam file, they can't see it, and we want to resend that email, there's a button in the email tab that says resend.
Yes.
So I'm assuming that's supposed to work, because I guess one of my girls early on called someone at Nextdeal or when they were having problems, and they said, no, that doesn't reinitiate the initial email. And I said, I think that's the whole point of the resend button, but is that correct?
I think we talked about one time that button does exactly what you were saying it should do. Does not yet work for pre-docs. It works for digital docs emails. It's being updated. In fact, they've worked on it this week, the development guys, and I'm hopeful that next week that button will be effective for pre-docs as well.
Okay. Digital docs is the post-closing marketing.
Correct.
Okay. So if we
hit
it if we hit it before we close, it's not going to do anything.
Not today.
Okay.
Yeah, but it won't show any post-closing emails went out. So an email would have to go out for it to show in that table with the resend button. So the first email that's going to show there, I think, for you is the thank you for closing with the closing boutique.
Right.
And then it goes on from there post-closing.
Okay. So if we're trying to resend that initial hello, here, fill out your documents email, the resend button does not work right now, but it will soon for that. Or will it not work for that?
It doesn't work at all today. If you send an email to support to have them to re-trigger that, they can do it for you until that button is live and fixed and live, which I think will be next week.
Okay.
And I'll let you know.
Yeah, I mean, I don't need to write this minute, but so if I know it's going to happen on its own in the next week or so, that's fine. But
Yep.
that was, the question is, if we're in pre-closing, you know, they call up and say, hey, I never got your initial email. It's usually the buyer who wants their wire instructions and they're anxious to get on
Yeah.
line. And if they see that, or they'll call us and say, I never got that email you told me was coming, and I want to re-trigger that email, you know, for them to do their initial sign-on. You're saying that in the digital docs, or what I call pre-closing, that'll work in a week or so, correct?
Yes, it will.
Okay, perfect. All right. Question on task, and you might need to get back to me on this. When we get payoffs for home equity lines of credit, even though you might say, hey, I need a payoff good through X date, on a normal mortgage, you can tell them I need the number good through 2 weeks from now.
Yeah.
So that you make sure you've got a padding in there. On a home equity line of credit or HELOC,
Yeah.
most banks only give you a payoff good through today with maybe a per diem calculator to add on it. But those need an update right before closing or at closing to make sure the person hasn't written another one of those fancy checks and drawn on their credit line to pay the moving guys. Do you know if they do, and on the home equity line of credit payoffs or HELOCs, an automatic update right before closing just to double check that? Or can they do it, or do we have to pay extra for it, or they just don't and that's up to us?
I guess you call that a date down one way or the other, wouldn't you?
I don't know. I don't use that term, but
I think that's kind of what. Yes, I will check for you. I'm pretty sure. I don't know if we do it automatically.
Right.
I don't think we charge you additional for it, and I will find out.
Okay.
So you want it done, when do you want it done, ideally, automatically?
The day before closing, just to make sure. You know, we do a title update the day before closing, and then on a HELOC, because there's that potential, they could have, you know, increased their loan amount literally.
Sure.
And we had this happen recently.
Yeah.
And we have them sign an affidavit and all that at closing, but some people aren't honest about that. So. And some people just don't get it. They don't realize, okay, yeah, my loan payoff should have gone up here. If they're not, let's just see. I'm going over my notes to make sure. We talked about the opposite. On the overall program, if I want to add a word or a question somewhere, and I know we're way past that, and I want to pay you to do that for me, do I send you an email request and give you specifics about it?
Yes.
Okay.
Send it to me and Jim, if you would, please, because we're kind of managing your account a little bit.
Okay.
If it's Sandy, if it's simple, there's not going to be a charge. If it's more than if it's more complex than simple, then yeah, we maybe. But I'm going to do everything I can not to charge you.
Okay. Well, and I don't mind paying for y'all's time. Yeah, I know I don't work for free, and I don't expect you all to either. One of them simple. We're adding a word mortgage because people are skipping that question. Like they see the words loan and lien, and I'm going to capitalize them and add the word mortgage because apparently they're missing that. And then the other one just has to do with when we have an entity like a trust, we've got to still ask the homestead question because we realize that after the fact that when you get into entity, it skips the homestead question because you're thinking it's a corporation or something, but a trust entity is still personal and the homestead still plays in. So
yeah,
it was just kind of as we're going through the files, you know, new instances come up. So I'll email you about those separately. They're not anything wrong with the program. It was just situations I didn't anticipate when we were putting this all together.
Those should be fairly easy.
Okay. Bree, do you have any other questions or input or concerns?
No, I think we went over everything that I had notes on.
Okay, good. I'm sorry we took so long, Robert. I met with Bree yesterday and we put our heads together and ran a final test just to try to narrow this down to answer a lot of our own questions. So.
I appreciate that. No, and listen, both of you, the feedback is very good and it's very appreciated. And especially because you guys understand when we explain that sometimes it's user error, sometimes it's not.
Mm-hmm.
When it is user error, you guys get that. So that's helpful. Bree, you now have, this is my cell phone number that I called you on. Please save that. And when you think it's appropriate that you just need a direct, fast answer, I'd like for you to call me.
Okay.
He's good with text too, so.
Yeah, I sure am. You can text me as well. Okay, good. You both will hear from me just as soon as I have answers. I'm going to do everything I can to get it to you before end of day.
Awesome. Hey, are you going to be at the Florida Land Title Conference in November?
I'm thinking about it. That and Alta are both on my radar because I really haven't gone to any meetings this year. We've been so busy. So most likely I'll be at both.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, I'm not going to Alta, but I'm going to Florida Land Title.
Okay. Well, let's get a cup of coffee.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay.
All righty.
Thanks again. I'll be in touch.
All right. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.